This is the #1 mistake vocalists and vocal producers make with their recording workflow. They open a blank session every time they start a new song and waste tons of time setting up the tracks, doing their routing, inserting the plugins, setting those, etc. You could do this every single session, or you can create a template and skip all these steps in your next session. I get it though. When I was brand new to recording, I didn't know the correct way to set up my tracks and everything, so I had to do it every session, and it always got super disorganized, and worse, I would put plugins on the wrong places, ultimately causing Pro Tools to crash all the time. But once I figured out that the engineers for everyone from Ariana Grande to Drake all do their setups like this, I made my own template and it flowed easy from there. So if your sessions are a hot mess, let's stop that behavior right now and set up your first template. I'm Kimera, producer, songwriter, vocalist, Pro Tools expert. You can learn more about me in the description below. Shout out to Juliana who asked for a video on a tour of my template. I will be showing you how to set up your own template as well as give you a tour of my personal template. You could follow along and build this out, or if you want to save a ton of time, you can just buy my template. That comes with a 45-minute course on how to use it as well. So this is what your template should look like when we're all done. This is the edit window, this is the mix window. So every time I launch a new session, everything is dialed in. It's like the song is already mixed. I just need to add my vocals and make tiny tweaks and I'm done. Super streamlined. But let's go ahead and open up a blank session. I'm gonna hit new. I'm gonna uncheck create from template because we don't have one yet. I'm gonna call it template setup. So we're gonna create a blank session. I like my settings, 24-bit, 48K, wave, let's boogie. So here we go. The most important step, the last step, you cannot miss this, is where I'll show you how to save this in your system. You do not want to just open this session and start recording into this session. You want to have it saved in your system so you can launch new sessions using the template. So make sure you don't skip the last step. So here's how to set up your vocal session in Pro Tools in 6 easy steps. First step, we're gonna create our tracks, which you can do on your keyboard by pressing Shift-Command-N, or you can just go to Track, New, same dialog will come up. I'm gonna need 13 mono audio tracks. I'll name these after. So they're gonna be one for my record track. I like to have 4 lead vocal tracks, and then the rest are gonna be background vocals. And if you hit this plus sign, you can add more types of tracks. I need 2 stereo. You might only need 1. Because I get hired to record vocals, I like to have 2 tracks, one for the instrumental and one for the guide vocals. If they send me like something that they sang, I need to listen to it and then I mute it when I'm doing my takes. So I need 2 stereo, you may only need 1. Then let's make 9 stereo auxiliary tracks. So you're gonna click aux input. Samples, everything's in samples. It's only ever going to be in ticks if it's an instrumental MIDI track. And then 1 stereo master fader. Super bizarre, but you can't make a click track from the new tracks menu. So once I hit create, just made all my tracks. I also want to make sure I go to track and go to the bottom of this menu and hit create click track. So I'm gonna pull this up to the top. I'm gonna reorganize a little bit. I like my stereo tracks on the top. So let's start naming these. I'm gonna name the first one my beat. If you're a fan of quick keys, you can just hold command and hit the arrow to the right button to go to the next track. Call this the guide track. Then I've got lead 1, lead 2, lead 3, lead 4. Okay, then we're gonna start our BGVs. You figure out your own system of how you're gonna wanna name these, but just a hint of what's to come. I like to record all of my background vocals in stereo pairs. So every time I make a new harmony, I record it twice so that I can pan one left, one right. So my naming system's a little ugly, but I call it like ABAX, or you can call it like ABGV1, ABGV2, and then B, BGV1, B, BGV2, C, you got the point. Oops, oops, oops. I don't know, this random audio track, I'm just gonna delete it. Oh, I remember what that's for. That's for my record track. Meh. I'm gonna pop this up above. I'm gonna call this REC. I'll explain in a minute. So let me double check my work. I've got my click track, I've got my beat and my guide, my record track, 4 lead vocals, stereo pair, stereo pair, stereo pair, stereo pair. Cool. Now let's get to our auxiliaries. I had you make 9 of these. So the first one is going to be my lead vocal chain. I'm going to make 2 lead vocal chains, and I'll explain why in a second. Let's make 2 BGV vocal chains. Okay, and then the next set of auxiliaries are going to be my effects chains. So I'm going to make a reverb. I'm going to make a delay 1, a delay 2, delay 3, and then I'm going to make a chorus. And I think that'll be plenty. And it annoys me that there's a 1 at the end of this. Okay, cool. So this is already starting to look like a real session. Let's move on to step 2, which is signal flow and busing. So we need to set up all of the routing. Just a refresher, signal flow is the journey of the sound. So it starts at the microphone. Your sound goes in your microphone through the cable into input 1 on your interface, in your interface into Pro Tools, and wherever you assign input 1 to be received is where the audio arrives next, which is going to be our record track. So mic, interface, input 1, input 1. Here are my inputs and outputs, CIO. I am going to set my input to, mine says analog in 1. Yours might say it a little different. Input 1, it might say the name of your interface, 1. Whatever you plugged in your microphone to, that's what you want it to be set to. And then it's just gonna go out 1 and 2. The way I record. Some people don't like this because they want their audio files named after the track that it's on, but I think it's way faster to record a take on this 1 record track and then drag it to the track that I'm gonna be putting that on. It's really annoying to me to have to like change my record track every time. And I don't even have input assigned. So I would have to go assign the input on every single track, and that's just annoying. So I don't want to have to like change my input settings on everything. I'd rather just record here, drag it down. The thing that people don't like is that this audio file is named after the track it was recorded onto, but I don't really care because I look at the track name. So whatever. Back to my mix window. Beat and guide are fine. We don't need any input going into. The only input's going to be like the actual audio that we place on the track. And then that's going to go out our speakers, which is out 1 and 2. So those 2 are fine. Now I want to change the routing of my vocals. I want to send my vocal audio to my vocal chains, which in step 4, we'll talk about the plugins that are going on our vocal chains, our software vocal chains. But for now, we're on step 2. We're just doing our routing. So lead 1 and 2. I'm gonna do Shift Option, and I'm gonna click on my output. Because I'm holding Shift Option, it's gonna do the same thing to both tracks that are highlighted. See how these are highlighted. So I'm gonna send this out, bus, we'll call it bus 1 and 2. Where is bus 1 and 2? We have to assign that as well. So I'm just gonna go over here, lead vocal chain 1, input, bus 1 and 2. Cool, so now when audio is playing on this track, it's gonna be technically going out here into here. And when it's on here, it's gonna go through our EQs and our compressors and all that and send some of our audio to our effects sends. So I'll get into that in just a minute. So that's just why you do that. I'm gonna send lead 3 and lead 4, Shift Option, click. Out bus 3 and 4. And then have that received at input 3 and 4 on my next vocal chain. Out 1 and 2. Just keep it out 1 and 2. The reason I don't just send all of them to 1 vocal chain is because typically, the reason I have 4 lead vocals is because once in a while, you might have a line that slightly overlaps the next line, so you need to start recording on the next track. Those pretty much won't conflict with each other or fight for the same space. But if you have ad-libs, those might fight for the attention of your plugins on your vocal chain. So I give them their own vocal chain. So I put my ad-libs on 3 and 4, or anything that's going to be sang at the same exact time as lead 1 and 2. So this is basically like the main leads for me, and then anything that is also technically a lead that may be singing at the same time. Pretty much anything that's gonna be panned center, and we'll talk about panning in a second because I want to pan all my background vocals, but I want my leads to stay centered. I set up 2 vocal chains for my background vocals. It's okay for them to share some of the space, so I'm just gonna split this in half. I'm gonna send the first 4 to the first BGV vocal chain, which I will assign as 5 and 6. Here it is, input 5 and 6. Again, output. We don't care about inputs on our audio tracks because we don't need any sound from a microphone coming to this track. All we're gonna do is record it on here and then drag it down. When there's audio already on the track, it's just already on the track. You don't need to have an input for it. Okay, and then the second set of 4 background vocals, I'm gonna go out, bus, 7 and 8. We'll just go in order. And then input, 7 and 8. Cool. Next on our list is our effects. So starting with our reverb, let's just give these an input. And I'm gonna teach you a fun quick key command. Obviously you could just do these one by one, but I'm gonna hold Shift, Option, Command, all 3 buttons. And what it's gonna do is whatever bus I click first, it's going to assign the following tracks the next bus in the sequence, right? So watch, I'm gonna hit 9, 10. And it just made the next one 11, 12, the next one 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. OCD ASMR. And then our master fader doesn't have an input. Its input is the entire session. So anything you put on this master is going to affect every single thing in the session. So we can't put very much on there or we will start making everything sound crazy. But we're not done. The reverbs, delays, and chorus are now set to receive something, but how are they gonna receive it? We need to send some audio here. And the way we do our special effects like reverb, delay, chorus, these are called time-based effects. They're effects that respond to the tempo of your song. We put those effects on what's called a send fader. So first I'm gonna go to my lead vocal chain and notice up above, it says I, A through E, I, F through J. Those are inserts, which are where we put plugins. This says S, A through E. So when I click this, it creates, and actually, I'm gonna do some more fancy footwork. I'm gonna select all of my vocal chains, and I'm gonna go Shift Option, and I'm going to add, I'm gonna click here to add a send to my reverb, which is bus 9 and 10. Click. And it just added a send fader to all of my vocal chains for bus 9 and 10, okay? It defaults to have the fader all the way down. So if I put a reverb on here, we won't hear any reverb because we're not sending any signal to that reverb. So what we're gonna end up doing when we record is we'll start adding in some reverb. So this is basically what's controlling your level of reverb that you're hearing. What's technically happening is this controls how much of your audio signal you're sending to the reverb. That always confused me because it seems a little counterintuitive. I always used to think of like, how much reverb am I putting on the vocal? But technically, it's how much vocal are you sending to the reverb. We'll work on our levels later and I'll show you a trick for how I do this super fast. So we have a few more to do. So let's just do that again. Shift, Option, which if I hit Option only, that would put this send fader on every single track. You don't want to do that. When you do Shift Option, it only adds it to whatever's highlighted. So don't screw that up like I have several times in the past. Oh, I did it. Damn it. Okay, I'll easily fix that by doing Option, no insert, or no send. Shift Option 11, 12. Shift Option 13, 14. Shift Option 15, 16. And I'll tell you what, I do not ever put chorus on my leads. I only put chorus on my backgrounds, so I'm only gonna do it on these 2, 17, 18. Cool, so all of our sends are set up, all of our routing is set up. That's it for routing. This is probably the most intimidating part of setting up a session and that's all, it's done. You've done it. Next, panning and levels. Panning is an important part of mixing that's going to help move the background vocals across the stereo field this way, so that they're all kind of standing in a different spot in the room. Lead vocals, I always like center. If I have a lot of overlaps, sometimes I might just cheat it a little bit, like that's it. A little slight off center, but for the most part, I just leave them in the center. And then for every stereo pair, I pan like this. These are our pan pots all the way. And by the way, I used to think to turn a pot, you had to like try to turn it, but then it doesn't work. And I'm like, why isn't it turning? You just click and drag up or down and it'll turn it. Okay, so I do 100, 100, and then maybe I'll do 90, 90. And if you're having trouble landing on the exact number you want, if you hold the command button, it helps slow down the increments of movement. So I'll get closer to 90, and then I'll hold command to hit it nice and on the dot. And then I'll go like 80, 80. So satisfying to land on the number. And then 70, 70. And that'll be a cool, like good little stereo spread. There's your panning. And then in my template, I do like to have all the background vocals turned down a little bit. And later I'll show you how to do this a lot faster using groups. And then for my template, I also like my reverb levels to be at a certain spot already, so I don't have to come and change the level later on. But again, I'm just gonna leave these on 0 when I show you my trick later of how to set these levels a lot faster using groups. We'll do it then. By the way, panning and levels is just one of the ways to manipulate what's called the stereo field in mixing. This is our perception of the sound coming out of more left or more right, but you can also do certain things to widen the sound even more, play with the height of the stereo field, use time-based effects to create even more space, and a lot more. So if you need a full video on how to manipulate the stereo field for fuller mixes, let me know in the comments and I'll do a whole stereo field video. But let's move on to step 4, which is plugins, the fun part. There are 4 specific places where we put plugins. One is directly on the audio track, and we don't do this very much. The only plugin I put on my audio track is Auto-Tune, or my auto pitch shifting. Part of what you're gonna do when you're dialing in your template is have your plugins set how you like them and then save it in your system so that when you open a new session, even your plugins are set the way you like them. The way you'll do that is probably by doing a mix on a song and then importing those settings into your template Pro Tools session and then saving it in your system again. You'll keep saving it in your system every time you update your template. And I've been refining my template for 15 years. The only other time I add a plugin to the audio track itself is if I'm going for a very specific special effect. So I often don't even do that in a session. I just rely on my regular mixing template. Place number 2 that you're going to be putting plugins is your vocal chains. Let's go to vocal chain 1 and insert the plugins that we're gonna use. This might be an unpopular opinion, but I put a de-esser first. A lot of people just put the de-esser at the end, but I like it first because my S's are bonkers, and so I'll put it first, and if I happen to notice as I'm mixing that they're still harsh, I'll add another one at the end. But don't go too hard with it or you'll start to sound like you have a lisp. Second on my vocal chain is my EQ. Sorry, I know I said we're gonna use stock plugins. So there is no stock auto-tune, but Melda Productions makes a free one apparently. So, okay, the Dyne 3s, you have the Dyne 3s. This is going to be your Pro Tools stock plugin de-esser, and there's a couple like presets you can just throw on, like the female DS. Next, I'm gonna use my EQ. And again, if you want more instruction on how to set these, go check out the vocal chain video, which will be out in 2 weeks, I think. So if you're watching this and it's already out, it's linked below. So you'll set up your EQ however you do, don't set it like that. That's too bright. Yeah, we'll talk about it in the vocal chain video. And then I do a compressor. All right, let's just use the compressor limiter. In my personal template, I also use a limiter next, but I don't think Pro Tools stock comes with an additional limiter. So yeah, you're gonna have to download another limiter, but I do recommend kilohertz. They are free. This limiter is not stock, but it comes free from kilohertz. And that's gonna be it for our vocal chain with stock plugins. Once you have these set the way you like them, if you hold Option and click and drag, it will copy it over with the settings that you set. We're just gonna copy them all the way across all of our vocal chains. Okay, then we get to our reverb. We need to assign a reverb. If you have the paid version of Pro Tools, you have a reverb called Air. I really like that one, and I like the cathedral setting. It sounds really nice. You might want to dial back the reverb time. But if you have not purchased and you're in Pro Tools Intro still, you don't have this. I also think you don't have this automatically. I think you need to go to your Avid account on avid.com and download the downloader. But once you have any paid version of Pro Tools, this comes free. But otherwise, you've got Deverb. I would probably start with like a large church or something, because I'm a cathedral girl. And then for your delays, let's add whatever comes with Pro Tools. Is it BBD? I have so many plugins, I forget which ones are the free ones, but whatever there's a delay of, I don't know how to use this, so I'm kind of like clicking around and I find I'm looking for something that indicates the note length. So I want my first delay to be my shortest delay. Let's just do an eighth note. And then we're going to copy this over and do a quarter note delay next. Oh, and you want your mix at 100. So let me go back and turn the mix all the way up. When you're doing it with sends, you want your mix at 100, and then you're gonna be controlling the amount with your send fader, okay? Then our chorus, go under modulation, not C1. Is it C1? Whatever you see in your system that looks like chorus or possibly even flanger, again, Air chorus is gonna be free when you have a paid version of Pro Tools. So just pick a chorus plugin. So that's the third place. So audio track, vocal chains, effects chains, and then our master fader. Again, master fader controls everything. So all of our fine tuning that we do is part of the mixing process. When we get to the mastering process, this is just the spit shine, tweaks, and polishes of the overall song and making it loud, okay? We just wanna add maybe an EQ if we're like, okay, overall, I just want the tiniest touch of brightness and I just want the tiniest touch more of low end. I would not push it more than that. And if you're hearing a collection of kind of muddy frequencies, maybe you would just dip them a little baby bit, okay? For your stock plugin setup, I would probably just go simply with a limiter, which I guess our only free one is this one. Again, we're talking stock plugins, but I would prefer a multi-band compressor so that you could compress just sections of frequencies instead of the whole overall. But we're working with what we got, so I'll probably end up just having to use this one again. And if you can, again, at least grab the kilohertz package of free plugins, and I would put a limiter on here and just pulling our threshold down. And as we pull this down, we will see the green meter on our master start to come up and up. That's getting louder and louder. Once it gets kind of close to the orange, don't go any further or you'll start sounding slammy. And that's that. But again, this is just showing you how to set up the template. This is not a mixing video. So if you need a full mix video, let me know in the comments. Here is step 5. This is the important part where we save our session in our system. All you do is go File, Save as Template. When this screen pops up, you want to make sure this is set correctly. This needs to be checked. Install template in system. Pro Tools makes like some categories. If you're going to be making multiple templates, I literally just have one. So it's just I just leave it in the songwriter folder, and then you can name it, you know, my template. I usually put the year because I always update my templates. And then say you want to do an update, you open this session like you're just opening a session, make your changes and hit save as template again. You can either save it as a new template and with a new name, or if you just keep the name the same, it will ask you if you want to replace that template that's already there. That sounds like the end, but next step is your refining. So you're ready. If you're in a hurry, you can just go ahead and start recording with this now. But as I walk you through my template next, I want you to make notes of some ways that you could refine and streamline your workflow with a few more settings. But before I show you that, real quick, please do me a solid and hit that subscribe button. I'm at 2,000 subscribers right now. I'm trying to get to 10K, so I really appreciate the support. And again, if you want a copy of this, I can send it to you with everything already programmed and already set up, so you don't have to do a thing. I include 2 versions of this template, one with all the free stock plugins that come with Pro Tools, and one copy of my personal template that has all of the plugins that I've paid for, which again, start slow. Over the years, you're gonna pick up one new plugin at a time. It also comes with a 45-minute training on how to use everything so you can get recording right away. Okay, let's have a look. So let me go ahead and open up my template again, just so you can see how do you open a new session from that template. Go Pro Tools New. This box, you need to check this box, that's all. And then remember that list of different types of templates. Mine's under Songwriter, and mine is Template 2023. So I would just select this, hit create, it'll create a new session, and when it opens, it will look like that. This looks slightly different from the one we just made by hand. As you can see, one of the things that I have done is I've color-coded these. To do that, you would go to Window, Color Palette, and tell it what you want to change the color of. You want to change the color of your track. So if I want to change the color of ABAC 4, I can do that. Super fun. Color coding is a good one. I also customize the layout of my screen a certain way, and you can do that with these teeny tiny menu buttons. So like here is the menu view selector decider, what you want your upper timeline bars to look like. I just show my minutes and seconds. I want to know what time of the song we're at. Bars and beats are all automatically going to be showing. That's the top one. If you need the time code, I don't. If you need to know how many samples you're on, I don't need that. So I've got those unchecked, but you can add this stuff in and have more information on the top of your screen. I don't personally need that stuff. I like to only have on there what I need. I keep my tempo on there. And then on my side menu, that's this guy, I'm just showing my inserts A through E so I can quickly access my auto tune and open it. Remember in the mix window how we had a second set of inserts, I, F through J? Like if for some reason you put a ton of plugins on, you may want to have those inserts there as well. You can have your send faders there too. I don't do that. I just want only what I need. So you can add all of these things. You can basically turn your edit window into a mix window if you just don't even like switching screens. I have updated the look of my transport, and you can edit that here. Yeah, there's all these teeny tiny buttons that you would never know are here. I just have my zoom controls. If I made those go away, you saw them go away. I need those, give them back. And I need my transport and my MIDI controls. MIDI controls are so nice to have because if you want to edit your tempo, you can just click here and do your tap tempo. I like to keep my track list on the side because it also has my groups. And groups are what I want to talk about next. Customizing groups is what's going to make mixing really fast. I have a group for each stereo pair. So if I have this one selected, I can control the volume, my soloing, my muting, all just by having these grouped. If this is shut off and I move something, they don't move together. So that's why I love groups. I have a BGVs all, so when I move all of the faders to the backgrounds, they all move at the same time. I have all of my effects, which is super helpful if I often automate all of my effects to shut off towards the end or something, or when there's a total like silence drop, I'll just draw in the reverb and it'll do it to all of them. So love having groups. When I have my auxiliary group on, it allows me to control the level of my send. This is something that you're gonna have to set when you're creating your template, so you might want to learn how to do the groups first so that you make setting this a lot easier. Let's say I wanted my reverbs across all of my vocals, all of my vocal chains, to be all the way up. You probably don't want to do that, but just to be dramatic and show you. Since I have my auxiliary group on, it did that to all of them. But if I turn it down from any one of them, it'll turn it down for all of them. See? Super, super, super helpful. What else do? I make sure that I'm in smart tool mode instead of like just trim mode, selector, etc. I make sure my playhead's not over here. I have it started at the beginning, and this is saved in my template. So I'm super specific with every little last detail so that when I'm opening a new session, I don't have to do anything. I can just start recording and it's ready. So yes, having this template keeps me super organized, saves me time, keeps the session nice and clean looking so there's no mess or overwhelm. But the most important benefit to having a template is that you can focus more of your energy on being creative. Speaking of being creative, make sure you check out my videos where I run my vocals through certain plugins so you can hear what they sound like before you buy them. And again, if you need help with your vocal chain, look out for that video. I'll link that below, and I think you'll like this video next.